You know that ringing in your ears? That ee? That's the sound of the ear cells dying, like their swan song. Once it's gone, you'll never hear that frequency again. Enjoy it while it lasts.
All clear. The upper school drill is over. Returning to normal activities.
I think it says be up close to that mic.
Oh dear God! I kind of want to be a little dark.
Fucking. Can you repeat the question?
Wow, good question.
Now you got me kind of nervous.
Well, don't look at it. Don't think about it. You're thinking about it.
Am I allowed to swear in this?
Yeah.
Okay. And
I
then
think you're oddly qualified to answer some of this.
Are they zingers?
Is this too close? Is
Nope,
this good?
that's perfect.
All right.
No hurry, please. There's no hurry. And we're back. Number 8 of The Thing. This time we're going to talk about playing live shows, and then we got one more on music, and then we're going to move on to other stuff. So yeah, take it away, Joel.
One of the great indulgences of being a musician, even on our, or everybody that I talk to for this podcast, like on our little modest corner of quote unquote fame, if you will, you could get, if you can get people in the room, you're halfway there.
Right.
That in and of itself is an accomplishment.
If you don't know those people, then you're really on.
If you don't know the crowd, that's
and
the
you're
best.
in your hometown and you don't know the crowd, then you're doing right.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. I always appreciated the shows where we had like 3 people on the guest list because nobody we knew was coming.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is a real
crowd.
But at any rate, one of the great indulgences we get is that we get to play live, and everybody I've talked to we all want the same thing here. It's that it's playing the live show is. I ain't got to tell you.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular moment? And again, you've been doing this forever. Do you have a particular show? And I'm not just talking about the Mules or whatever. Of all the bands you've been in, where you're like, that's a memory that I'm going to have the rest of my life. Like playing that show. I know that there's a lot of them, but if there's one, is there one moment that kind of like stands out as like, holy shit?
We've had we've got to play with plenty of people, that brought the people in, so, Lucero, Fu Manchu. So we've had, it wasn't ever so much about crowds. I think 2 places in particular. The first one would be the Mustache Fest. The first time you actually went to another town that you didn't know anybody and they were singing the songs. I think that was the first taste of where you're like, like what the hell, because I wasn't hearing a lot from the monitor. I was hearing my voice, but then there were so many other more, and you're looking at, and as people pointing and yelling the words to Pilot Light, that was one where I was like, wow, I didn't know that, and so that was the first time away from home where you don't know anybody, and that was a fun show. And I think anytime we ever played the 331, as much of a cluster as it would be, that always felt so, you got maybe a 5-6 beer buzz going for yourself beforehand. Everybody's packed up close, there's wires and cables and sweat, and it's a mess, and everybody's just in your face, and it's loud, and those are those moments when you almost like you feel like you've just let go. You're just like, boom, whatever happens. I can shut my eyes and nobody's there, and whatever you're singing about, you open your eyes, the sweat is stinging them, but you smile and you grab your beer and you do some more. There's some banter but I think that I would say that Mustache Fest and any show at the 331 in the end there, they got to be, those were memorable, fun times, fun, kind of rowdy, everybody on the same page, not just band, but band and audience, at that point, everybody kind of knew who we were and what was going on. And that was a fun, small place to pack a lot of people into and kind of have a party with. So
What about playing live? Like one of the big, I was explaining to somebody that if this was an hourly job, we're all making about negative $1 an hour, probably, if we're lucky. But we get to do things that most people don't get to do. Well, normally, not this year. And that's play live. Do you have like a particular show moment experience getting to play live that just stands out where you're like, God damn, being born was worth it?
Yeah. I've got ones, I'm sure, just like you, that are close to my heart, that are the smaller shows that had that really good kinetic Minneapolis energy. But probably the thing that really was like, okay, this is awesome, and I never planned on this, was Communist Daughter did a couple of tours opening for Jason Isbell, and the last round we had done was these gorgeous opera houses. And so standing on those stages during sound check, just looking out at all these, fancy places with really just gorgeous, ornate decorations, and just so huge. Standing on the stage, looking around and seeing that before the crowd got there really made me feel like, okay, if I never did this again, this is something I never thought I would ever be able to do, and something also that my parents just never thought it was like a real viable thing. And they didn't get to see those shows, but they got to see pictures of them, and they were like, wow. And so some of those theaters opening up for Isbell were really awe-inspiring for sure.
That's incredible. Just out of curiosity, how do those rooms sound?
Dude, they're freaky. I remember, when we were doing sound check and hearing the slap back from, you hit your kick drum and it would then travel and hit the back wall and then come back to you. And I said to somebody, like, how many seats are in this theater? And they were like, oh, it's like 5,000, 6,000 or something like that. And I was like, Jesus. And they're terrible.
I've kind of heard that.
Yeah, you really you need monitors, you need in-ears. We have Communist Daughter in particular have always, to our folly, been like, we'll just throw our gear up, we'll figure it out, it's fine. And we did always make it work, but man, I got really locked in and glued to my monitor. I would just be like, just please give me bass drum. Just a bass guitar, and I need bass guitar, and I need Johnny's vocals and Johnny's guitar at the very least. Otherwise, I'm going to be just lost in a big soup of noise. But yeah, they're tough if you're actually trying to listen from the stage. Even like First Ave. I think it's kind of like a thing that artists talk about amongst themselves, but they don't talk about to like just fans, people that go to shows. That stage is actually notoriously like pretty rough from sound from the stage. So you got to definitely find your sweet spot with monitors and things like that. Make sure you're not blasting too loud. So especially as a drummer, I'm not making everyone just cover their ears in pain because I'm hitting my drums so hard.
Sure. Well, the entry, I think the entry is undeniable. That's the best room in the world. For playing on stage, I've never played on a stage that's as, hey, shut up, bro. That's as nice as that. All right. Let's see.
Did you ever, you guys had to have done T-Rock.
Oh yeah, we played there a bunch of times. That place is pretty cool too.
Oh man, the sound wasn't always the best, but the feeling on the T-Rock stage was just amazing.
Yep, and the Turf Club, and I always like the Uptown Bar. Oh, give me just a second. Come on.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Hey Sarah, he's got something stuck in his throat. He's got something stuck in his throat. Oh, I got it. That's his move when he'll chew on paper like he was over here, and then he'll get it stuck in his throat, and then he'll sit there and bark at me until I reach my finger into his mouth and pull out whatever it is that he's got. So
that's like, oh man, Dad, please help me. I've done it again.
It's normally what he does is, because I'm a high school teacher, and so this is where I'm in here all the time.
Oh sure.
He sleeps all day, and then as soon as I get on Zoom with the classroom full of kids, he starts spinning around in a circle up there and barking and chasing his tail. It's crazy. But all right, so
funny.
of all the stuff that you've done with music, is there like one thing that you're particularly proud of that maybe you didn't mention yet? Like, I got to do this, or I got to do that, or just one thing overall that you're like, things you can show your parents that they'll understand, if that makes sense. Or
Yeah, I definitely think the thing with employers or parents or anybody that's not really next level into music, if you say Grey's Anatomy, that really helps people go, oh, you've done all right. So yeah, we've had things on NBC. The Blacklist just had some stuff of ours. Japanese soap operas, like all this stuff that it's hard to keep track of, that has used a song of ours, in particular Communist Daughter. I'd say those things are pretty easy to earmark as like, holy smokes. I was in A Whisper in the Noise for a minute, and that was a really fantastic band. I was a huge fan of before I was ever a member of, and I wasn't a part of the group during this period, but explaining to like my parents that they did a cover of Bob Dylan's Times They Are a Changin', and it was like playing during the credits of an M. Night Shyamalan movie, where I was just like, yeah, that was a band I know those guys, I was in that band. Stuff like that, that's cool. Just pop culture references, pretty easy to say.
Man, I'd have to think about it. There's a few. Probably, there's a couple that come to mind. One that stands out to me, and there weren't even that many people there, but it was my first experience of like actually playing or opening for an act that had some national appeal, was when we had the chance to open for Weed Eater at the Nomad. And we actually ironically had like 2 shows booked that night. And this was the first time Jeff had set the show up, and because he'd made connections with Weed Eater, and we had already booked a show with I think it was the Deaf. Do you remember that band? Yeah. So we'd already agreed to play a show at Big V's with the Deaf, and then Jeff found out about this opportunity to open for Weed Eater, and we decided, well, we can do both. The Weed Eater show, we'll play first, and then we'll leave, and we'll run over to Big V's and play the second show. And got to meet Dixie Dave the first time. I met him a few times since, but it was just a really cool show opening for those guys. And in hindsight, we should have never played the show at the Deaf, because I think we ended up headlining that one. We found out after the fact that despite all the hype about that band, they had no draw. So they couldn't bring a crowd themselves, to help us out. So we ended up playing to them. They played to us, we played to them. We missed the opportunity to hang out and party with Weed Eater, after hours at the Nomad. And it just kind of is one of those things you wish you would have done differently.
Yeah, I get the feeling that I get playing. It's why I do it's why I've done it for so long. It is an escape from everything. You're not, nothing else matters at that point. So I cherish those moments. I cherish everything that music's had to offer, it's, I don't take it for granted. But yeah, there's obviously been times where I've been on stage and holy shit, how did the hell did I get here? For example, my first time playing overseas was in the Netherlands, and the band I was playing with, Sourveen at the time, was asked to headline Roadburn Festival, and that it was sold out, and we were headlining that show, and that was the biggest venue I've ever played in my life, and it was so it was just mind blowing, to tell you the truth. But I've also experienced that in shitty clubs, So like I said, I can't pinpoint like a specific time that I've been like, wow, because it happens to me a lot. You know what I mean? Just like if I can have like even a local show with 100 people in the door, you know, I'm you know, tickled. You know, like it's like I've made it. You know, like it's all worth it. You know, like all the bullshit is totally worth it. You know.
I mean, the biggest thing that the pandemic has taught me is that I didn't really take any of it for granted. Like I every day I got to be on a stage, I was super excited to be there. And a lot of musicians I know don't go see other music, which I think that's, you know, everybody find your own fuel and stuff. But for me, watching shows is how I get to, you know, fill my tank up. And so if I wasn't playing shows, I was watching shows. And so like I never took any of that for granted. And so like I really miss all of it right now. But like I don't think I can sit on my, you know, in my sorrows and be like, oh man, I really took that for granted. It's like, no, dude, you were pretty present in all of it. And like I understood the weight and the significance of playing and watching people perform in those moments. If there's a specific moment, you know, we played. I mean, I feel like I could just do a year-long podcast on my favorite moments from stage, but to like pick one out of the hat, and you know, it's great because like I feel like even when you talked about the songs, you know, like I was like, well, one song can be on the peak, you know, for a while, you know, like that's the top dog, and you know, somebody's down at base camp and they come up and they reach the peak. I mean, with live music moments, like the top of that mountain is very expansive. Like there's so many shows that get to sit up there and high five each other. But one year we played with the Duluth Symphony Orchestra and Charlie Parr over the 4th of July at Bayfront, which is the big park there as you pull in on 35 in Duluth. And I remember it wasn't necessarily my performance. We played in the late afternoon, but we were just laying in the back stage area outside of the tents, drinking growlers from local breweries and watching fireworks as a live symphony played right behind us. That was pretty cool. Like that's one of those moments that I would have never even expected that would have happened. I didn't foresee that. I played saxophone in band in 5th and 6th grade, and from then on, so I never thought of myself as an orchestra kid. But then there I was drinking beer and watching fireworks and listening to a live string section. It was really cool.
There's a few of them. I mean, you know, without too much of the backstories, like there was the first show I played in Japan with Attention, and we went over there not knowing at all what it was going to be like or anything about it, and like going out and playing that first show and like the way that all went down was like, I mean, I was like 2 minutes in, I was like, holy shit, I'm in Japan and I'm playing a sold out show in like a cool club. Like, how the fuck did this happen? And then the other thing would probably be Two Harbors opened for Temples in the main room a few years ago. It was originally supposed to be a Turf Club show. Temples was really hot at that time, and it sold out too quick, so they moved it to the main room, and it sold out in the main room. Maybe it didn't completely achieve sellout, but it was pretty close. But that was a show like where we really put the work in before the show, and we really wanted to do well. And you know, sometimes like you get those shows and you get too excited about it and you build it up too much, and then it's a disappointment, and maybe you kind of come out flat because you've over prepared. And there's those shows that you don't try very hard, and all of a sudden the show goes off awesomely. This was kind of like right in the center. Like we really tried, and we came out and we played a really great show that night, and it was super fun. And you know, to top it off, like Temples were great guys, and they were super psyched to be playing the main room.
I mean, this is very stereotypical too, but I would say my senior recital of undergrad, because it was like, you know, all those years of all that work, and then it's like an hour-long recital, and it's just this huge accomplishment, and there's like everybody that you care about is there, and it's just kind of amazing. But so I would say that as a performance thing. Otherwise, I would say on the other end of things, conducting like a you've had like a full, like usually the spring concert for like band or orchestra or whatever is always really amazing because you've spent the whole year with those kids, and then they're always really excited about that concert because it's the movie concert.
There's multiple times. There was the first one that comes to mind was Houston playing at the Empty Bottle in Chicago. I think we were the headlining band, but we had absolutely the best show we've ever played in our life. And we fucking killed, and it was butts to nuts in that place the whole fucking time. And sold out room, killed it. And I loved that night, and it was super fun. And it's like there's a weird thing where you hang out with two other people and you go on the road and play. And some nights suck, and most often you hate each other. But that night, it was like the best sex ever, and it was really, really fun. The second one that comes to mind was Monroe, Louisiana, where we had a huge following there because one dude in that town discovered us and basically made CD copies of all of our records and distributed them to all of his friends. So we went to play there, and we opened for Shiner. Shiner was the headliner, and as they should be because they're amazing. But everyone was there to see us. And that was really cool because that hadn't happened all tour. And Shiner kind of recognized that, and we got paid a butt ton more money than Shiner did. And then we went back to our hotel room after that, and with all these piles of cash, we jumped around the bed in these piles of cash like little kids. It was ridiculous.
I think that, well, there were a lot of those, but I think that when it came to rock and roll for me, especially in my time in New York, there was never anything like, how people say, they had a lot more fun trying to make it than they did making it. Well, I never really made it, but I came really fucking close a lot of the time, and I always felt like I was on a trajectory going up. And I think it was the first time I headlined the Bowery Ballroom, and we had packed 800 people into that audience. This is probably around 2007, something like that, 2006, 2007. And I just love that room, It's an old, Bowery Ball, it's an old ballroom, that's probably been there for 200 years. And I remember staring at the ceiling in the middle of a twirl or something. And I remember thinking, just being here right now is fantastic, but being here is gonna take me somewhere even better, So there was that. Right around the same time, or a couple months after that, we opened up for the reformed version of the New York Dolls at Irving Plaza, and I remember having something similar happen there, And I can go on and on and on with all that. I lived for those moments, because you sacrificed everything. Well, other people would say that you sacrificed everything to play music, but to me, it wasn't really much of a sacrifice because it was fucking great. There's no sacrifice at all, man. No trouble at all, my friend. It was a privilege and a pleasure, and it was so much fun. And I always hoped that, as a drummer and whatever, that I brought a lot of, that unbridled enthusiasm to the music and to the show and everything else. It's just, once I moved into being a vocalist and a singer, a little bit of a darker attitude maybe, but it's all fun no matter what, and if you do a good job, you're going to have a hell of an after party afterward, and let's hope you're not working tomorrow.
Yeah. So Round 13 was record collective that Jay and I came up with, and basically what we were trying to do is, it wasn't really a label, but it was mindset more than anything, of bands that kind of all thought the same, trying to accomplish something locally, and wanted to work with each other and kind of promote each other and help each other with shows and things like that. So I guess we called it more of a collective than anything, rather than a label. We weren't certainly bankrolling anybody to put albums out, but we did help for a while there. We were helping sell records. We had an online presence and things like that, and we got stuff set up with online distribution and streaming and stuff like that in those early days. But then this showcase we put together was kind of a culmination of all of that, where we came up with this idea. Me and Jay and Nate Pischke from $20 Love came up with this idea to do this showcase where over 2 nights we'd have every band that was kind of on the Round 13 label would play a show at Club Underground. And part of it was, the idea was to raise enough money to put out a compilation disc that had studio tracks from each of the bands on the label and live tracks that were recorded at the showcase. So we had a guy lined up, Adam Tucker, who has now gone on to do a lot of really cool things, but he was a good friend of ours, and he brought a kind of a mobile recording studio in there and set it up and recorded every band, every set, and we were able to go through, each band was able to go through and identify what live track they wanted to feature on this record, and we ended up with a double CD, technically I think it was, with live tracks and studio. So pretty cool.
Not really, because I'm not like you. I haven't performed entire concerts where you can actually get comfortable and sort of start enjoying the experience. For me, it's usually just a couple of songs, and it's just terror, leading up to performing, and then while I'm performing, it's just trying to hold it together, for me. And so the good feeling comes only afterwards, when I've managed to do it without making a fool of myself.
Yeah, there was one show in particular. We played $20 Love, played South by Southwest in 2009, I think. And it was Droids Attack, Blood Cow, and Imperial Battlesnake. And us 4 bands kind of toured down there together, right? So we were in a van with Blood Cow, 10 guys in a van with a fucking trailer, and Droids and Battlesnake were in another van, and we kind of crossed paths on the way down there. And since Blood Cow and us were kind of slackers, we had a number of days off, and Droids and Battlesnake were playing fucking 2-3 shows a day sometimes. Anyhow, we got down there, we met in Dallas, Texas, and we played with Valiant Thor, and it was a fucking really fun all-ages show. But the next day, I believe, we played in Austin, and it was South by Southwest, and we played at a club called Headhunters, and it was a Crustacean Records / Round 13 Records afternoon showcase, and I think it was 1:30 in the afternoon. $20 Love, we got to headline because we all were rotating headliners for every show, because it was 4 out-of-town bands. Anyhow, the crowd was very tiny, except it was all the bros there, no stage, and we were Billy Milano was there from SOD. Yeah, he was he worked at Headhunters, and it was his day off, and he was just there, and he loved all the bands, and we had a really fucking fun daytime show. That show for sure, it was so fun. Everybody was just getting crazy, and you know how it is when you play a show with no stage. It's really exciting. You can get up in somebody's face, and it's all your buddies that are there. That was a really excellent show.
I did not have any sort of high goals, so I would say, just as a kid, in North Dakota, being a big Prince fan, playing First Avenue was always the thing, and I've managed to do it now 7 or 8 times, and including the Gear Daddy's sold out thing. So I would say that's probably the top of the heap, because that was one of those things as a kid where I always just even wanted to be in that building just to see it. So let alone to be standing there, having the screen come up and all that.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. That was
the
thing.
The first time I went there I was just talking about this. Do you know Gabe from Four on the Floor?
Yeah.
Everybody fucking
good guy. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Illinois and the bartender did get
right? That doesn't surprise. Everybody likes him. He's just a likable guy.
In fact, he goes, "Give him this horn. He drinks out of this. He forgot it here last."
I know the horn you're talking about.
Yeah. So not only did he know him, but he asked if we would return it. You're going back up to Minnesota.
That's awesome. But I was talking to him about this. The first show I saw at First Avenue I was in high school, and it was Pearl Jam on the first tour.
Oh.
Holy shit. I mean, it was the legendary First Avenue, and I got to see that show there. It was unbelievable. And another thing that you reminded me of, Nick, is, do you remember, because this is one of the standout moments from playing the main room, when they first turn your guitar up in the house PA. I remember, and I was in a kind of a hardcore metal-y type new metal band at the time, so it was all about big guitars.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I am a god during sound check. You know, when they turn that up through the house PA, and you're, no room sounds like that. Maybe the entry.
I've never heard a monitor sound like it. Not even the end. Some people will say the entry is the best sounding room, but I'm like, that, like, you feel when you're on that stage like it is impossible to mess up. Like, everything sounds so good. Everything is so clear. The vocal monitors are so great. Like, it literally feels like you can't fail.
Yeah.
Which is pretty rare feeling. Like, I've never had a club necessarily where I felt like there's no way you can't play this well at this place, you know?
There's a lot of them. I mean, you could break it down into phases too, like different musical periods you went through, like your first cover band, you know, your very first show of all time, and then when you were actually in your first band that was kind of good, and then you were in your band that was really good, and then there's everything that came after that. But I think it was the first thing that came in my mind when you asked me that was the Violent Femmes show at Bratfest, and not because of like it wasn't amazing like for the musical it was amazing because of what happened before I even got on the stage. As I'm walking from the back of the stage, I don't even know the lead singer's name of the Violent Femmes. I don't know his name. That's how unfamiliar I am with their catalog. But I'm like, dude, I don't know the song. What key is it in? He's like, it's in the key of life. Just go with it. And that's what I was left with. So from a memory standpoint, like that's a memory that sticks out. From like stage standpoint, God. There were, I mean, you could just say that whole period we were playing at Cause was pretty fantastic. We sonically remodeled that room many a times, and they were all like, kind of all the shows we did there have been compressed in my mind into one gigantic show. Does that make sense? Like it's just, yeah, they just kind of rolled together. Yeah, well, they've just been, like, I have different memories from different things at different shows that happened, but they were all just brutally fun. And, you know, from top to bottom, like, it's not just I guess now the more that I think about it, it's not just a show, it's like it's a decade's worth of memories and experiences of something that'll never happen again, you know? At least on that level, in that time, in that period of life. So,
well, most proud of, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, two things are super, super awesome. I make a living making music. Like, I live pretty damn comfortably. I wouldn't say I'm like a baller, but I have like 7 jobs. So I work my ass off, but the fact that like I make music and get paid to do that is pretty rad. Can't complain there. And at the end of the day, I'm also creating the next generation of musicians, which is, I mean, the philosophy of my life's work as a music instructor. It's just like, I don't care if they turn into, like, I don't even care if they join choir in middle school, because I teach K5. But I just want them to like think of music differently, and hopefully even as a listener of music, appreciate it more as an adult or an older kid than they would had they not had me as a teacher. So, I mean, I think those things are pretty rad. I mean, I get to actually, I mean, I teach those kids for 7 years. And so I actually get to like help shape them as a human, which is super cool. And using one of like the things that comes so innately to humans, music, you know? So I would say that that would be my biggest, like, hoo-ha.
What do you think we learned today, Joel? He's waving his hand kind of side to side, like maybe something, maybe nothing. Anyways, next time we're going to talk about funeral songs. You get to pick the playlist at your death. People will be all sad and shit. You can make them either happy. You get to DJ your own funeral if you plan correctly. So yeah, Dispatches from the Apocalypse back in short order. See ya.